Hello and welcome to the Holy Spirit's Curriculum of Joy podcast. I'm Monica Oberhuber, your host. Today I have a guest and she will introduce herself and share with you about how to move through what one might call difficult times by applying A Course in Miracles and how the fruits of that are so wonderful. Blessings.
Hi, Wanaco. This is Sudie Shipman. I've been studying and teaching A Course in Miracles since the late 1980s. So now that we're in 2020, that's over 30 years. Seems like it's gone by very quickly. I know that you wanted me to talk about, well, first of all, it's kind of interesting for your listeners to know how we met. I joined a mentoring program on Messenger to be a mentor for people that were interested in A Course in Miracles, and you found me, and the Holy Spirit directed you to contact me, and so we've been having a holy relationship since that time, and we've had some wonderful talks and some wonderful joining that's happened with the Holy Spirit, not only just in our conversations on Messenger, but in actually being able to talk to each other on Messenger as well. So recently I got a flu virus, a viral infection, and I noticed that the last few times that I've been sick, it's felt very different. And I think because of my long time study of A Course in Miracles, that the results are starting to show up. It used to be, years ago, when I got sick, I would get very scared, almost to the point of panic. And I was very resistant to being sick. It was not something that I enjoyed. It was certainly not an experience that I wanted to have. And there was always a great deal of fear that came with it. And over the years of having dissolved, I guess would be the appropriate way to say that, enough fear and enough of the ego, that I have noticed now that when I am sick, I don't panic anymore, and there's not any fear associated with being ill. As a matter of fact, this last flu bug that I had, I actually quite enjoyed the experience, which is kind of funny for me to even say. One of the things that I've really learned in the last few years, what the Holy Spirit and Jesus seem to really have been teaching me the last maybe 24 months, is to accept every circumstance. So no matter what is occurring, to accept that circumstance exactly as it is. And so I've been practicing that. My husband and I, a little over a year ago, completed taking care of one of our good friends in the process of her passing away from stage 4 cancer. So we took care of her and hospiced her in our home. And as you can imagine, taking care of somebody that is leaving the body, you have a lot of ability to and time to practice forgiving that situation, letting go of the fear around that situation, and dissolving the ego, if you will. And so what I found then with this last bout of me being ill is what the Holy Spirit, one day you and I were talking, and the Holy Spirit told me the difference is that the shadow of death is gone. So that I'm now operating from a state of peace of mind, having dissolved the ego enough that it no longer has control over my mind at all, that the shadow of death, which would have been causing fear, right, has dissolved. And therefore, when the circumstance of illness comes up, the fear is no longer there. I can just meet it with acceptance. Um, I'm just tuning in here to spirit to see what else there is to say around that. The technique. So I would say that I was a particularly fearful person. I had an incident as a child where I thought I was going to be killed. And I think that generated a lot of fear for me throughout the years, a lot of suppressed and unconscious fear. And so the technique that I have used to help to dissolve that fear over the years has been to simply observe the fear. Now, that sounds very simple, but it's not easy because you literally have to feel the fear. And feeling fear is about the last thing on earth that I ever wanted to do. It's something that I wanted to avoid. It is a particularly unpleasant feeling. And I think inherent in the fear is the wanting to run away from it. And so I really had to practice and to train myself when I was feeling fearful to just sit with it and observe it and allow myself to fully, full on feel it. And I do want to tell you, Monica, that was not an easy thing to do, but it was entirely worth it because the fear has, I would say, 90% of the time left me, where I was given to panic attacks and had dealt with a lot of fear throughout my life. Times of intense just terror as well. Um, and, inherent in that as well is the forgiveness process. And the forgiveness process from A Course in Miracles is just asking the Holy Spirit for help. And so I would always, in those times of observation, ask the Holy Spirit or Jesus to sit there with me or to be with me and ask for help. And, help is a wonderful prayer. It's a one-word prayer. Just help. Help me to do this. And of course, practicing the lessons. Whatever the daily lesson would happen to be of the day, I would call upon that lesson, like, help me to see this differently. Help me to see peace instead of this, or I choose peace instead of this. And I don't think I can convey via words the reward that I'm experiencing now. And the reward is, of course, a peaceful mind, and the ability to stay peaceful in any situation. I wouldn't say that situations that people don't like don't come up. Of course, we are living in this world of form and everything is always changing. And sometimes we don't like those changes, whether it be the illness or death of a loved one or a cherished pet, or having to make a difficult decision that might induce guilt and have us have a hard time living with that. But the solution is always the same. And the technique is always the same. It's always asking the Holy Spirit for help. Help me to see this differently. and observing the feelings around the situation. And no matter what the situation is, surrendering to it and accepting it, which I know is no easy task. I know that this is not an easy thing to do because you don't get the results immediately. You don't immediately feel better. The feelings have to process, the fear has to process, the guilt has to process. So you have to move through it. I like to say that the only way out is through. And yet, having gone through these processes over the course of the last 30 years, the rewards are now presenting themselves, where I do have a peaceful mind, where I can sit with somebody that is dying in love and in joy and in peace and embracing them and in their journey, in their process, which I don't think I ever could have done at the beginning of this journey, the way that I'm doing it now. And I guess one other thing I'd like to add before we stop this recording is um, the relationship that you and I share with the Holy Spirit. I think that's the thing that connected the two of us, and that we are very willing and able to talk with the Holy Spirit internally. And I just want to say that everybody is able to do that. And I think that the biggest hurdle or obstacle to us developing a relationship with the Holy Spirit is our disbelief that somehow we think that we're not capable of doing that. And Monaco, I think you and I pretty early on accepted that Spirit was guiding us. And I know on my journey that it has been this continuing to open to that guidance and to be willing and to give myself permission to hear and to say that I am worthy of that. We are all worthy of hearing the Holy Spirit's voice. We are all worthy of embracing ourselves as Christ. And if anything, the last 30 years of my journey has been a willingness to allow myself to say that, Jesus implored us to do greater works than he did. And to say, okay, I will do that. I will accept the atonement for myself, as A Course in Miracles puts it. And that continues to be a part of my journey, continuing to open up more and more to the acceptance that I am worthy of being Christ, just as worthy as Jesus, the same as him on earth. And then what occurs, of course, is that the light comes through us and we are able to bring peace to minds that we join with, that we know, and even people that we don't know and don't have any idea that it's occurring. So, Wanako, I want to thank you for the opportunity to join your podcast today. And I look forward to speaking with you again soon in the future. Thank you very much. Oh, one more thing. If anybody wants to find me, my name is Sudie Shipman. I'm on Facebook, SUDIE or my email is sudiel@aol.com. SUDIEL as in Lynn at AOL.com. Thanks.
Looking forward to our next episode. See you next time. Have a wonderful, wonderful time. And until then,